In this video, we're going to be talking about the POWERCITY Core DApp along with the POWERCITY Earn DApp and talking about how we're simplifying DeFi. So with no further ado, let me bring up my partner in crime, Mr. Just Ask Jesse in the house.
Hey, everyone.
Here he is. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Since last week, we've had a big thing in crypto. We've had the Bitcoin halving. What's your take on that?
Well, most people are just excited about like price action around these sorts of things. I think a lot of that might have been priced in. You know, you get people on all sides of the spectrum. You get people saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to $1 million now," and then you hear other people say, "Oh, Bitcoin's going down to 13K." You know, historically, sometime after the halvings, you know, it does start to go up again. I don't necessarily know what that is from. It could be that there's miners that are ejecting because they no longer are reaping the same rewards they were before. Like if you're getting a paycheck, okay, and all of a sudden one day your employer says, "I'm cutting your paycheck in half," you might say, "All right, see ya. All right, I'm out of here." Right? That might be part of it. You know, a lot of the miners just ejecting, but I'm not 100% certain. And just because things historically happen on a chart doesn't mean that they'll necessarily happen the same way again, especially when there's so many eyes on crypto lately. And a lot of the price action that people are hoping for from historical movements, for those movements to happen again, maybe that some of that's priced in, right? So I don't know. It could go up, could go down. Nobody knows.
Well, as we've talked about before, obviously, crypto a lot of the time is about speculation. People are speculating price is going to go up. They want to buy low. They want to sell high, obviously. But as we've talked about, you can speculate, but you can. That doesn't mean that you can't also use other dApps where you can make yield, like the core, like Earn. So let's have a look at the core today because it does really. Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, I want to make a couple of distinctions before we dive into the core. So you've got some major failures that happened in crypto a few years back, couple years back, with central institutions such as FTX, BlockFi, Celsius, okay, and those platforms offered yield, but the way those worked is you would send your crypto to these entities, right? There's a limited number of people who control the keys to those crypto wallets, such as those founders and some of the personnel there. And they'd take the crypto that you sent and they would invest it, or they would attempt to make some gains on it elsewhere. So some of these entities would take some of that and they'd put it into even some meme coins. They'd take things to DeFi platforms such as Aave and Curve, and they try and spread it around, making some gains in the DeFi world, and then giving you a piece of those gains. Okay, but more often than not, a couple of things would happen. They would lose a lot of money on some bad speculations, or they would just blatantly steal money from the new people depositing, like a Ponzi, right? They would just steal that money and then give some of that back to the later investors and say, "Here's your yield," right? We're doing so well. Look at all this yield you're getting. But really, that was like new user deposits, right? So a combination of bad investments and some Ponzi tactics there. And eventually these things collapse, right? It's never smart to have a central institution feeding you what they claim is, a yield, when they're never transparent about where that yield comes from. And this is a major problem in crypto. With any institution, you deposit some money, and all you see for a period of time is the number go up a little bit, right? You even see this with Coinbase, right? Coinbase, you can earn like 5% back on your USDC, but where is that actually coming from, right? You always have to ask yourself, where is that yield coming from? And more often than not, they never tell you. And you never know if they're making bad trades or if they actually have the funds to make whole all of the people who have deposited, right? So it's a very dangerous thing to be playing the yield game with an institution. Now, where DeFi shines and things such as the core that we've built, the whole concept behind this is, how do you generate a yield that's completely sustainable? It's not just from tokens minted out of thin air, inflating themselves. It's not through a central institution or a founder or something making trades and then trying to feed those gains back to you. Instead, you build a network of dApps that people need to use, such as bridging platforms. Right, we have Portex, such as a lending and stablecoin platform, Earn protocol. People pay fees on that. Okay, and then when Pixel Park comes out, that's a platform that people will use and gladly pay fees to use it. And then what you do is you just simply take those fees and you feed them over to your stakers. Now what you just created is a completely decentralized, unable to be shut down, and forever sustainable yield that's not a Ponzi and can last forever. Sometimes the yield is great. Sometimes the yield is not so great when the markets are down, but it will always float with those markets. And sometimes you'll be very excited about the yield you're getting. Other times, you're just waiting for more people to use the platforms, which is when less people are using the platform in a DeFi world, it's usually the result of the markets are down. They don't have that much crypto to spend, right? When the markets are up and they have lots of crypto to spend, they start using these platforms. The fees get bigger, the yield gets bigger. So these fees float 100%. They float right alongside the price action of the native coins of the chains that these things are on. Completely sustainable. That's what we wanted to build. And the core, which is right in front of us here, is the central staking platform where all those, not all of the fees, where the majority of all those fees are collected to the stakers.
Well, I mean, it's taken timeless principles that you've seen since the beginning of time, which is provide value and therefore get value too, right? Where, as you were saying, in centralized exchanges, where there is staking options, we don't know where that money is coming from. And then also there's other things in crypto which inflate a lot of the time. And that's why we like to say making revenue over inflation compared to, something that's just inflating on top of itself. Yeah. So the core, obviously all the dApps in the PowerCity ecosystem, when people use it, it provides value to the users. They pay a small fee and those fees flow back to the stakers.
100%. Now, I do find it, just a quick caveat, I do find it interesting that there's, on one side of the coin, you'll hear people swear up and down that a buy and burn or a burn mechanism is really, really great. On the other hand, you see other things such as Bitcoin, which have no burn mechanism, that only inflate, up to its max supply, right? What's done the greatest? Bitcoin so far, right? It's done millions of X with no buy and burn, with no burn mechanism. It's simply demand. So more than I find it funny when people get so excited about buy and burn versus inflation. More important than either one of those things is simply demand. You have to have demand. You have to have users who want the thing. Plain and simple. When you have users that want the thing, it doesn't matter if it inflates. It doesn't matter if it burns. More buyers, price goes up. More sellers, price goes down. It's really that simple.
I mean, like you said, Bitcoin, no one can, obviously, crypto can be very, cliquey and culty, and people like to hate on Bitcoin, but then, and say, their coin is the best or their altcoin, but you can't deny, obviously, that it's still number one, still got the most liquidity. And yeah, there's no buy and burn feature there and stuff like that. So let's get into how the core is simplifying DeFi for users on Pulse Chain, because there's multiple things you can do here, right?
Yeah. So the PowerCity team has created a suite, or continues to build a suite of dApps. Okay, we're talking lending platforms, bridging aggregator. You'll see Pixel Park. You'll see some other NFT tools. You'll see an auto compounder. All right, so you'll see all these apps that some of it is a little nichey, right? You'll have your niche people who like the NFTs. You have your niche people that like to do lending and create stable coins and play those games. We're trying to create a suite of dApps that suits just about everybody, right? That you can come to PowerCity and you can find something that interests you. All right. Now, in doing that, these tools have fees. All right. If you're going to use our bridging aggregator, this thing is working for you. It's scanning the blockchains. It's finding you the best trade routes. It's listing them in order. And it shows you, these are all your available options. Which one would you like to take? Here's the gas fees, and here's the associated costs to go from this coin to this coin on these two chains. It just did a lot of work for you. It saved you from having to go find a whole bunch of different bridges and compare them. And all you have to do is click the one you like. You click it, you go through their bridge. We don't hold the coins. We don't take custody or anything like that. You're interacting directly with those contracts. So it's essentially a search engine, and then allows you to easily click and access those options. Right now, that service comes with a small fee that's really on par with the rest of the markets for aggregation, and it's small enough that it's really negligible to the end user, but it's still substantial enough that it feeds the core, and the stakers of Watt or Watt LP in the core can benefit from the users who are using our Portal X. So there's one way that our core benefits. People are bridging, they're using our aggregator, even same chain swaps, and those fees flow to the core. Earn protocol. Whenever somebody takes a loan, they're minting some PXDC, and some of that PXDC flows straight to the core. Whenever somebody does a redemption, there's PulseX. Some of that PulseX goes straight to the core. So the core at the moment is collecting Pulse. It's collecting PXDC. It's collecting PulseX. It will soon collect other tokens, such as Loan Token and USDL, when that front end is released. And we have another protocol that is right around the corner, which I'm not going to name the tokens to. So soon, as in maybe next week or the following, you'll see 2 other tokens that get fed to the core. So as we build more and more things, each of these things has fees. The stakers in the core collect more and more tokens, right? We can whitelist a lot of different tokens, so we can just keep on building and flowing those tokens from the fees to the core.
So to be a staker in the core, as you can see here, you need some WAT token or some PLP, which is the LP token. Literally come to this box that says instant stake. You'd hit this button, connect your wallet, and then you can set up a stake. And then you'd be given some AMP shares. Can we explain what AMP shares are to people that may not have heard of those before?
Yeah, it's basically your equivalent of the share of the pool, right? So you have a pool. Imagine a group of wallet addresses that all share in those fees. The amps represents your share of that pool, right? The more amps you have, the bigger your share. There are the earliest of the earliest stakers that got a 2x bonus on their amps. If they were to end their stakes, they can never have that 2x bonus back. They would come back in at the current amp equivalent. Click the little button that's next to amp equivalent. There's a little, when you stake WAT tokens in the core, you'll receive an amp amount representing the stake's share of the rewards pool. Now, based on the market conditions, there could be times where it's better than other times to stake. So the way the algorithm works, it encourages people to come in and stake WAT when it needs to, and the same with the PLP. You can stake PLP. So
where you actually where you get a 1.5 bonus on this, right?
Yeah. So this is a whole nother rabbit hole that I don't think people fully understand. When you liquidity provide anywhere, whether it's let's say you go to Portex, you have 2 tokens, you liquidity provide with them, you will experience this thing called impermanent loss. When somebody buys, they are buying one, you're putting up 2 tokens. Somebody comes in, they want to buy one. They're essentially selling one thing that by depositing that into the pool, and they're taking away from you the thing that they're buying. They made the price of the thing they're buying go up. But for you as a liquidity provider, you just got more of the thing that went down in value, and you got taken away from you in your pool share the thing that went up in value. Okay? You have more of the thing that went down in value, and you got taken away from you. You have less of the thing that went up in value. Okay? Now, the way that math works, you just experience impermanent loss. The only way to offset that is for you to exit your LP position at about the same point that on the charts that you entered, right? If you exit at any other point and you do the math, you will have lost some value compared to just holding your tokens liquid, right? This is a result of the X times Y equals K formula. There's no way around it. It's how it works. X times Y equals K. You as a liquidity provider will always experience impermanent loss. Impermanent loss is a real thing. Now, there are incentives that can get paid to liquidity providers on various platforms to offset that loss. So on PulseX, Richard may have set up certain pools that he likes to be incentivized with INC token, for example. So while you're in those pools, you are experiencing impermanent loss, but you're offsetting that with INC token. When you see the really high yield INC emissions, that's usually because there's volatility in those pools, and volatility in a liquidity pool means very extreme and permanent loss. So if you were to be in those pools, you're experiencing severe and permanent loss, but you're being offset for that by being given a whole bunch of INC token. All right. Now, if you were to hold those INC token and do nothing with them, but other people are selling them, and then you exit your pool, not at about the same position you entered, you're actually going to be at a loss, right? You might have gotten all these INC tokens, but if people were dumping them, and you weren't, you didn't offset your impermanent loss. You didn't sell to compensate yourself to offset that impermanent loss, right? So if you're going to liquidity provide, you really have to know what you're doing. Now, the problem with this conventional style of liquidity providing and paying incentives, and you see this with Earn protocol too, by the way, and lots of different protocols. I mean, PHUX even is when you pay out an emission of a token to compensate for that impermanent loss, there's a real risk that people will just dump that token, never ending, right? They'll take that token, they'll realize it's to compensate for impermanent loss, and they'll just dump it every time. They'll claim and dump constantly every day, right? And that's not very helpful to the token. So in that conventional liquidity providing incentives, you would normally want some sort of alternative use for that incentive token. Now, unfortunately for PulseX, INC at the moment doesn't really have an alternative, like something else you could do with it. You can hold it, you can call it a meme coin, maybe it goes up a lot, maybe it goes down a lot, but there's not necessarily something you could do with it. You can't vote with it or anything like that. Now, you look at something like PHUX, and they have an emission of PHUX tokens, and you would think people just dump it constantly to compensate for impermanent loss, but they don't, because there's a secondary use to that same token where you can stake that thing for some additional fee share, and you can also vote, and you can do a number of things, right? So it's super important. Don't just compensate by throwing a token at somebody. Have that token have an alternative use. Even with Earn protocol, if you liquidity provide over an Earn, you will, and you stake those LP tokens, you'll get more Earn. But guess what? You can go stake those Earn for the fees, right? There's an alternative use. It's not
so just yield on top of yield, basically. This is DeFi, right?
Yield on top of yield, or at least something you can go do with it so that you can earn money with it, earn crypto with it, without just having to dump it to get some value out of it. I would like to see that for INC. It doesn't quite exist yet. We'll see what the community comes up with in the coming months and years. But I am excited to see what evolves out of PulseX. We've tried to do our part with Earn protocol. We may continue to expand upon what we've done with Earn. So there's a lot of room for PulseX to still grow if people continue to build on top of it. Now, core LP, core staking of what? if you LP your Watt tokens and then you stake those for an incentive, here's where we differ. You don't get an emission of tokens. You don't get something to go dump. Instead, you get a bonus on your fee share. So imagine you, and remember, what are you collecting when you're in the pool collecting the fees? You're collecting Pulse, you're collecting PulseX, you're collecting PXDC, you're collecting other tokens soon to come. You're collecting a number of things. And when you stake your LP tokens in the core, instead of just being given a token that might become a forever dump token, you simply get a bigger share of the fees, a 50% bonus of your if you had just taken Watt and staked them, all right, you would have gotten less. Because you decided to be a liquidity provider, the system recognizes that, hey, this guy may have some impermanent loss. He's got to get compensated. Half of his position in the LP is in Watt, and the other half is in Pulse. So because it's a 50-50 balance there, he gets a 50% bonus of his AMP shares when he goes ahead and stakes those. Okay. And by doing that, you just created a system where people can always liquidity provide and simply get a bigger bonus of the fees. There's no token. There's nothing extra to get dumped. There's nothing else you have to worry about to create a voting thing or create an alternative use or whatever. No. Hey, you LP and then you stake your LP tokens, you just get more of the fees. It's really simple. I don't know why I haven't seen this anywhere else in crypto. It did take us a while to think of this and then design it and build it and audit it, of course. It would be nice to see other protocols kind of follow suit. But this may be the first in the industry where a team has decided to incentivize LPing this way. And you can do this forever. So instead of having a token that has to be emitted out for eternity, or for a period of time and then it runs out and then nobody wants the LP anymore, now you created a way where you're incentivizing liquidity providing for the rest of time. Never ends. You can come in 5 years from now and liquidity provide, and you're going to get a 50% bonus on the fee share that you get, right? So we think it's brilliant. I don't think that people fully grasp this concept yet. It's a lot to comprehend. I encourage people to come in and take a look at the core because it is pretty cool.
I mean, it's a great feature because, like you said, nobody wants to. I mean, I know you're a stablecoin maxi, kind of self-professed. Yeah. And obviously there's minimal, if any, impermanent loss if you're doing stable to stable. Mm-hmm. But of course, like you said, if the price does move a lot, you are going to lose. The ratio is going to change unless you exit at the same position that you got in. So to have that incentive to LP and then obviously get a 50% bonus on your staking is good. Let's talk about how you can actually become a liquidity provider inside the core, because we've simplified that too, right?
Yeah. So it's quite simple. We have this tool called the Zapper. Now, whenever you liquidity provide, you have to provide 2 tokens. You have to provide, and the incentivized token here is, or the LP here is going to be Pulse paired to Watt. So we made it very simple for you to come in with Pulse, click Zap, and it essentially takes half of the value you're putting in there, and it turns it into Watt. So you are buying Watt. It does drive the price up a little bit. And then it immediately gives back your LP token, which you can then stake, right? So you're zapping some value straight into the LP. And this LP is in PulseX, by the way. This function here interacts directly with PulseX. Okay. So you tell it how many pulse you want to zap, 5 million pulse or whatever. It's going to take half of that value. It's going to turn it straight into watt. It's going to return back to you some LP tokens, which you can then just immediately stake.
And let's just show people that. So let's say you came to the PowerCity Core dashboard and you were here. If you wanted to do that, you'd go to the Utilities tab at the top, and then you'd come down to the Zapper function. You click Use Zapper. You'd put in how much PLS you wanted to zap into the Watt PLS pair. Like Jesse said, you do the transaction, you'd get your PLP tokens. Once you had those, you just come down. Sorry, you'd go back to the dashboard where the staking instant stake box is, and then you'd stake your PLP here. So it's just a few clicks, right?
Just a few clicks. You never have to leave the page, or never have to leave the core to do any of this.
So obviously we've got staking there, staking the Watt token. We've got PLP where you get that 50% bonus. In the utilities, we've got the Zapper function where you become an LP. We've also got the wrapper function. Why would someone want to use the wrapper function?
Well, wrapped pulse is an ERC20, and go up to the collector for a second.
Yeah.
And when you get paid, or when fees are collected and distributed to all the stakers, they get distributed in the form of wrapped pulse. Okay. You may not want wrapped pulse. You may want native pulse, right? So we made it easy on our platform. And this is just one reason, by the way. So go back up to the utilities. You may wish to hit the utilities button. You may have some wrap pulse that you've collected from staking rewards. You can use the wrapper. You can unwrap your wrapped pulse.
So you can wrap or unwrap either way, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Fantastic. So another function there. And then we also have trading pairs and shortcuts to add tokens. So you can add, you've got trading pairs. You can go straight to PulseX via this link here. You can buy Watt token on Portex swap. And then we've got some quick add features, because even for newbies, sometimes, you got to copy and paste things. It can be a little bit fiddly. So this makes it just simple, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the core pretty much summed up. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It is the core of the PowerCity ecosystem, and where stakers are getting a cut of all the fees. Let's jump to the Earn protocol quickly, because there's only a few days, or I think we've got, let me share this. We've got, I think, 11 days left for the LP rewards that, they can farm Earn tokens, as we talked about.
Yep.
And then, so if people come to the Earn protocol, to the dashboard, and then go up to the utilities, we can see PXDC and PulseX LP staking, and Earn PLSX and LP staking. Maybe you could talk a bit more about this, Jesse.
Yeah. So this is like the example I gave before, where you can be a liquidity provider and then compensate for any impermanent loss, or just get an emission of a token you like or whatever. You take your LP tokens, you stake them over here. So if you're a liquidity provider on PulseX of PXDC and PulseX, or Earn and PulseX, you can just stake those LP tokens over here, and you get an emission of Earn. Right, that lasts for another 11 days, and then it stops. Now, what happens when it stops? Does that mean the LP dries up? Not necessarily. We have a ton of liquidity over on PHUX, where there is a forever emission of PHUX tokens, and you may see some other methods to bootstrap into this and provide additional incentives going forward, in a future protocol that we release, right? So no promises there, But for now, there's still earn tokens emitting out to the LPers who stake the LP tokens right here inside of Earn Protocol.
And then when you farm those earn tokens, obviously you can do as you want with them, but you can stake them here in the staking part of the Earn Protocol and get a cut of all the fees, because every time somebody uses the system, there's going to be a small fee, whether that's in PulseX or PXDC, depending on whether they're opening a vault or redeeming, and those go to the stakers. So as we talked about earlier, yield on top of yield. But yeah, the clock is ticking. So if you do want to farm earn, we've got 11 days left here, but also maybe some surprises up our sleeve too, right?
Absolutely. So I posted a question over in our Telegram. You might want to go check it out. t.me/PowerCityIO. And the question was, when do you think the next Power City protocol will launch? In 1 day, in 1 week, or in 1 hour, in 1 day, in 1 week, or in 1 month? All right. It's interesting to see people's responses there.
What were the responses?
So let's see what the percentages are of people's responses. 15% said in 1 hour. 7% said in 1 day.
Interesting.
30% said in 1 week, and 50% said in 1 month. So what is that?
That's the link to our Telegram.
t.me/PowerCityIO.
Maybe
PowerCityIO.
Direct me.
Yeah.
This is what's on this. That's what's on our Telegram. If you go into our Telegram, but
okay,
maybe they've changed.
I've never seen it look like that where it says direct at me, but it's okay. So the half of the people said in 1 month.
Yeah. So I
believe that half of the people are incorrect.
Oh, really? Well,
that's all
I think yeah, people should definitely keep their eyes peeled. Like you said, more incentives and more things up our sleeve. As we touched on today, we've obviously got the core, we've got earn. One thing I do want to touch on before we wrap up is Portex swap. I did a video on this. I dropped it a few days ago, and that we now have a Portex integrated into Portex swap, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So this was this took just a little bit of effort, some communication with the Portex team, and then back with our partners Rubik, and getting some devs together to make this happen. But now Portex is fully integrated, right? So you can, if you're on Pulse Chain and you're going from one token to another, it's going to scan through. It's going to show you PulseX v1, PulseX v2, and Portex. Now, you could say, well, where's 9mm and where's PHUX and where's all the other dApps? Well, we wanted to focus on Portex because it already includes all those things, right? It already does an excellent job finding the best trade route through all the different dApps. So we said, you know what, let's take something that already works great and just add it into our aggregator, right? So that's why you don't see everything. Now, some people are very biased to PulseX v1 and v2 as info, but you'll see that, interestingly enough, Portex normally has the best rate. Look at that. For this swap, PXDC PulseX, 99.82 versus 99.72 over at PulseX v2. So yeah, that's normally the case.
You get more PulseX, more bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
And why that is if people are wondering why, because Portex is a DEX aggregator, therefore your orders spread among many places, giving you the best.
Instead of you eating all the slippage in one single place, you know, it'll break it up across multiple places, so you don't need as much slippage.
Yeah. And to make it even handy, you can even say it says best here. So, you know, if you need best here, meaning obviously that's the most profitable trade according to our calculation.
You'll see what just happened there. All of a sudden it says Portex V2 is the best.
Okay.
When this happens, you know, somebody just did a swap.
Okay.
Okay. And if you're to refresh, and our bot would have eaten that swap back up, and you'll see Portex jump back up to the top again. Right. So there's some periods of time where it's like, oh, somebody just dumped or somebody just bought, and those rotate around a little bit. But
that's, well, obviously the markets are moving the whole time, right? So
yeah. So see how there it is, right?
Yeah.
So whoever dumped or bought or whatever over on Portex V2, our bots already caught it, ate it back up, and Portex is at the top again.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, listen, Jesse, it's been great to have you on as always and talk on this Tuesday evening. As you said to everyone, stay tuned. No one wants to blink because we might be releasing some stuff soon and might have some incentives. So anything else you'd like to say before you sign out tonight?
No, check out our Telegram. Let's get some activity in there, and there's really positive vibes in there. I'm really liking the way things are going. Markets are down at the moment. Like I said, nobody knows what these markets will do. Nobody knows what Bitcoin's going to do. But things are looking hopeful. And by the way, the SEC, we're going to have a stream talking about all the SEC blunders at some point, because they are really falling on their face lately. And that is very good for the crypto sphere, in my opinion. So we'll talk about that another day.
Yes, yes. All right, then. Thanks, man. And we'll catch you soon.
All right. See y'all.
Thanks, guys. And if you want to check out more about the protocol, about Portex and the core, the links are below in the description box. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.